Yashamati Nandana Brajavaranagar Gokula Ranjana Yashamati Yashamati Nandana Brajavaranagar Gokula Gopi Paranadhana Madana Manohara Gopi Paranadhana Madana Manohara Gopi Paranadhana Madana Manohara Gopi Govinda Nimeshardhakyo va vrajati nahi yatrapi samayaka. In Brahma Samhita, we hear Nimesha. Nimesha means a second, very short time. Ardha means half. Akhya. So in that spiritual world, it is so called because there is no question of the passing away. In there, yatra, in that abode of Gokul, of Krishna Loka, Nimeshardhakyo va vrajati. Vrajati means passing away. Like we have vraj, no? Vraj means to go, to move, to wander. Therefore, the land of Vrindavan is called Vrajabhumi. Vraja, where the cows wander. So Vrajati. Vrajati means passing away. The yatra, where in that abode, there is not the passing away of even half a moment. So where there is no question of any deterioration in the quality of time. Everything just goes on flowing, flowing, flowing. In the spiritual world, everything is in the present continuous. We have past, present and future. We are accustomed to this in the material world, isn't it? This is how time acts in the material world. Time is like an arrow which flows in one direction. And as it flows, it makes these divisions. And it is irreversible, at least for us. So what has happened is in one category, it's the past. What's happening now is present, and very quickly in one moment it will be into the past category. And what is yet to come? Future. So because it is irreversible, you cannot go back there. You cannot go back into the past. We may have some vague memories of what happened, let's say when we were children. Some memories are there, some experiences may linger in our mind. But actually what is gone is gone. So in this world, time is lost. Once we pass it, it is lost. So even Chanakya Pandit says that Ayushya kshana api, even if the 1 second of our life is lost, Suvarna Koti, even if there's thousands of gold coins, you can't buy it back. So what is gone is gone. So that is the nature of this world. So we have a distinct categorization of past, present and future. But in the spiritual world, it's not like that. In the spiritual world, everything is present continuous. It is present, it continues. Whereas in the material world, the present becomes past, the future becomes present, and again the present becomes past, and we go on. So therefore everything here is tinged with sadness. How many of you are above 60 years of age? Anyone? Okay. Do you wish you were back when you were 25? You long for it. Oh, there's so many young people here. They are so healthy and strong and able to move, and now I'm 60, I'm 70, 55, 50. Now I feel the changes in the body. So in this world, time creates regret. Time creates disappointment. Time is an impediment in the fulfillment of our desires. Time leaves a very bitter taste. Because with time, we lose everything that is valuable to us. Our youth, our health, our happiness, everything is lost in course of time. Our family, our relationships, our very body is going to get destroyed with time. So time doesn't create a very happy situation in the material world. But in the spiritual world, it is not like that. In the spiritual world, time flows. Sometimes devotees wrongly think that there is no time in the spiritual world. There is time there. But time also flows there, but not in the way that it does here. Time does not create an irreversible effect as it does in the material world. Time there flows and enables one to relish past, present, future at the same time. Inconceivable. Many things about the spiritual world are inconceivable. One time one devotee tried to ask Prabhupada so many questions about how things happen in Goloka Vrindavan. And Prabhupada ultimately, he said, you will find out when you get there. Because it is not possible to just speculate and try to understand with our material intelligence how things happen in the spiritual world. Because we have no experience of that. We have only experience of the destructive effects of time in this material world. So when we talk of something like present continuous, it doesn't make much sense to us. How is that possible? How is it that there can be activity and that there is no question of past, that it doesn't pass away? Nahi vrajati, na vrajati, doesn't pass away. Whereas here it passes away. The moment we perform an activity, that activity is past. But there, an activity continues. You can continue to relish it. Let's say you're taking a good meal now, eating some delicious prasadam. So as long as you're eating it, you're relishing it. Once you're done with it, it's over. You can't ever experience that very same thing again. You can have another meal which may be delicious, that's another matter. But that exact same meal in the exact same way, you cannot relish anymore. It is now beyond your scope of experience. It is gone. But not so in the spiritual world. You want to relish one meal and keep on relishing it, you can do that. So whatever you want to do in the spiritual world, you can keep on doing it. And you can keep on doing many other things at the same time. So it is truly inconceivable. It is beyond the scope of our intelligence and mind to understand these things. So the spiritual world has this very unique quality where time doesn't make anything bitter. In the material world, as I mentioned, it makes the rasa of life bitter. Rasa means a mellow, a certain taste, a certain pleasure. We get pleasure in eating something, for example, but that's forgotten after some time. We have pleasure in relationships, but that pleasure is also lost after some time. We quarrel with each other, we fight with each other, develop misunderstanding, and even if we don't quarrel, eventually we will die, we will move away from each other. So ultimately it's all bitterness. So time creates bitterness in the rasa. Whereas in the spiritual world, time acts, but it enhances, it sweetens the rasa of Krishna's pastimes with his devotees. So in the spiritual world, then everything becomes sweeter and more relishable. That is the effect time has in the spiritual world. So originally, time is existing in the spiritual world, and we see another aspect of that time which is tailor-made for this world. Because in this material world, Krishna has designed it in such a way that it will destroy our dreams. There you can live your dreams perpetually in the spiritual world. Whatever you want will be fulfilled. Therefore it's called Chintamani Dham. Chintamani is a touchstone. Touchstone meaning that you can fulfill your desires. Whatever you want, you ask. A touchstone can turn anything into gold, or it can give anything you like. It's called Chintamani Dham. Do you know what this material world is called? Chintamani Dham. Chinta means worry. Everyone's worried about this money. Because money is honey. So the taste of that money is so sweet. Yes. We all want that money, money, money is honey. So this is a Chinta Mani Dham, that is Chinta Mani Dham. So everything there is pure, everything there is just simply bliss. The rasa goes on expanding. Whatever you like, you can attain in the spiritual world. But of course, it will never be something that is not in keeping with devotional principles. Otherwise, you can't exist there. And nobody there will have such desires anyway. It is only in the material world that we have such wrong desires to enjoy independent of Krishna. For example, even here in Vrindavan, when the cowherd boys were hungry, they told Krishna, you are expert killers of all the demons. So there is one demon now we are asking you to kill, and that is a demon of our hunger. So please get us some food from somewhere. So in this way the cowherd boys had their own desires. But those desires were always in connection with Krishna, because they were situated on the platform of pure love for Krishna. Therefore they could desire anything, and Krishna fulfilled every desire of theirs. So when we become situated on that platform and return to the spiritual world, there is no unfulfilled desire. That is why it is called Chintamani Dham. And every speck of dust is like touchstone. Kalpa Vriksha trees abound there, as we know from Brahma Samhita. All your wishes can be fulfilled. But in the material world, the Kalpa Vriksha trees, if at all they exist, will be very dangerous. One time there was this man who was in the edge of a forest, inside a forest, and he came out and he was very tired. So he decided to take rest under a tree. He was hungry, thirsty, tired, but he could not walk anymore. So he came on the edge of the forest and he saw a good tree there and he said, let me rest here for the night. So he sat there, he was resting, and as he was resting against the tree, he was thinking, oh, I'm so tired. I wish I could get some nice meal. I'm also hungry. And lo and behold, suddenly in front of him he finds a wonderful meal, all sorts of delicious items of prasadam there. So he said, how come this happened? I just thought, let there be, I wish I had a wonderful meal, and then suddenly all these items come up. So anyway, he was hungry, so he ate all of that. And then he said, now I'm full, my hunger is satiated, but I'm tired. And sleeping against this tree is a little uncomfortable. I wish there could be a very nice bed on which I could lie down and comfortably sleep. And what happened? Suddenly there appeared out of nowhere a very nice bed. So wonderful, how come this bed came here? So then anyway he went and lay on the bed. And as he was laying on the bed, then he was thinking, how come all my desires are getting fulfilled like this? What kind of tree is this? And then anyway he was looking around and he was thinking, oh, this is a forest, dangerous forest. What if a tiger comes now and eats me up? So a tiger came and ate him up. That was the end of the story. This is the problem with desire trees, if they exist in the material world. So be careful what you desire. Be careful what you ask Krishna. Krishna may fulfill it. Sometimes people ask, oh Krishna, give me money, money. Krishna may give you also. If he gives you, then he is not responsible. Then as a result of that money, what happens in your life, that's another question. So therefore, in this material world, trying to fulfill our desires is always very, very dangerous, full of perils and difficulties. In the spiritual world, all our desires can be fulfilled, and the time factor facilitates that and makes everything sweeter and sweeter. So no bitterness in the rasa of relationships. There are no quarrels of the type we get here. Yes, there will be quarrels between Krishna and the gopis, etc. The cowherd boys may also sometimes quarrel amongst each other, but that is on the platform of love. Not like the quarrels that we find here, which are under the material modes of passion and ignorance. So time is acting in an inconceivable way in the spiritual world. So from the Brahma Samhita, let us repeat that. Will you repeat after me? Nimeshardhakyo
निमेषार्धाख्यो
Bhav Ya Vrajati
व्रजति
Nahi Yatrapi Samayaha.
नहि यत्रापि समयः.
So Nimesha Ardha Akhyaha. So even half a moment na vrajati doesn't pass. So this is the nature of the spiritual world. But in the material world, it's opposite. Time acts in a way to destroy everything. Generally, we are very familiar with the question, what is the time? We ask that question or we think about that question so often every day. Even without asking, at least in our mind, we look at the clock because we want to know the time. So in our mind, the question has arisen, what is the time? So this question is very common. But what is not commonly asked, and which is a very important question, is what is time? Someone who doesn't know the language properly may still tell you what is 5:30. But that is a different question, completely different question. What is the time and what is time? They're two completely different questions. Actually, our understanding of time in the material world is not actually complete at all. We do not actually know time. We only measure the differences in time. So with respect to something else, we say this is 5:30. With respect to some event, we say it is 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock or something. So it's all relative here. We are only measuring differences in time by some standard. But what is time actually? What is it that we are measuring? This is such a deep philosophical question, deep scientific question. Even the scientists are not able to understand what is this time factor. And even in spiritual life, it's such an important topic for us. And as you all know, many of you are doing Bhakti Shastri and so on. So there are 5 topics discussed in Bhagavad Gita. So all of you are scholars, isn't it? All of you are Bhakti Shastri degree. So what are the 5 topics? Jiva, Ishvara, Prakriti, Kala,
Karma.
Karma. So the soul, the Supreme Lord, material nature, time, and activity or karma. Of these 5, which is the only one which is not eternal? Karma. The other 4 are eternal, which means Kala or time is also eternal. So how is it eternal? What is this time? Krishna has given us some hint in the Bhagavad Gita. Aham evakshayah kalo. Aham, that is I. Eva, certainly. Akshayah. Akshaya means that which is never destroyed, which is not perishable, which is infallible, which is never fallible. Kalaha. So I am imperishable time. I am indestructible time. So what is time? Time is Krishna. Krishna's energy is Kala. So Kala or time is not different from Krishna. Krishna also says elsewhere, among subduers I am time. Kala kalayatam asmi. Kalam kala kalayatam aham. So among all the subduers, I am time. Subduers, there are many others, so many agents that subdue others. For example, there is a king, he may punish a criminal, subdue another criminal, or one king may subdue another king in battle. So there are so many agents that subdue others. But among all agents of subduing, time is the supreme. Because Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that no one can face time and no one can conquer time, but everyone is in turn conquered by time. Time conquers everything in this universe. As the saying goes, time and tide wait for no man. There is a proverb like this in English. Time keeps flowing and time will conquer everyone. So time is the all-conquering energy of Krishna. And because there is no difference between the energy and the energetic, therefore we can say that time and Krishna are non-different. Sri Krishna also says in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Kalosmi loka kshayakrit pravrittaha lokan samahartum iha pravrittaha. He says, Kalosmi, Kalaha asmi, I am time. Loka, the planets, Kshayakrit, the destroyer. Kshaya means destroy, Krit means the person who does it, the action of doing that. Pravritta means to completely destroy, one who's engaged in. So, Krishna says, Kalosmi loka kshayakrit pravrittaha. I have appeared in this world to, I am the, actually means great, pravritta. How? I am the great destroyer of the worlds. Lokan samahartum. And I have come here to destroy all the people. And I am engaged in that activity. So as time, Krishna is destroying everything. Krishna is destruction. Srila Prabhupada used to say that there are many people who do not believe in God. But God will come to them in the form of death, which is time. When time is simply acting in so many ways, it creates birth and eventually it will create death. Jatasya hi dhruvom mrityum dhruvom janmam mritasya cha. For one who is born, death is certain. For one who is dead, birth is certain. So this is how time will act to destroy everything. So everyone will be destroyed. So this is the harsh face of Krishna to those who are atheistic. Now the people ask that, well, you say so much about death and time, but all of you devotees are also going to die at some time. Yes, indeed, we will also die. But for us, you see, death is simply Krishna. So we see Krishna's loving hands taking us back to the spiritual world. The non-devotee will also see Krishna, but in the harsh form of death where everything is taken away. So for the non-devotee, death is the cause of destruction of our plans, our hopes, bewilderment, bafflement. It is ultimate failure. But for devotee, death is success. Because the devotee will now be moved on to the spiritual world and live an eternal life. So therefore, time factor acts in different ways. But in the material world, it will relentlessly act to destroy. So lokan samahartum iha pravrittaha. Krishna says, I have come here and I am engaged in the act of destroying everyone. So also it is explained by Srila Prabhupada that time creates 6 distinctions in this world, 6 categories that every entity has to go through. There is birth, growth, maturity, production of byproducts, decay, and eventually death. So this is the effect of the time factor on all entities in this world. Whether it is a human being, whether it's a bird or a tree, and so on. We all have to be subjected to this relentless effect of time. Time is merciless. Time has no mercy. And it will act in such a way that creates complete bewilderment. Srila Prabhupada also mentions one time that the living entity performs karma influenced by the 3 modes of material nature with the sanction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and under the control of the time factor. So we are all under the clutches of time. No one can say I'm free. So all the notions of freedom that we have in the material world, we will fight for freedom, we will fight for independence. We want this liberation, we want that freedom, are all different forms of illusion. We're all under the clutches of the three modes of nature. We're all under the clutches of the time factor. So where is the question of freedom, of liberation? Liberation is when we can get free from these two things. And that means we have to take shelter of someone who's already free from these things. And that is Krishna. So Krishna is time. Time is Krishna's energy, but Krishna is never under the control of time. The spiritual world is never under the destructive effect of time. Because of the time factor, we tend to forget. Because we are so tiny. And we are clouded by the three modes of material nature. So we forget. So what happened in the past, we forget. Sometimes what happened a few minutes ago, we forget. But for Krishna, it's not like that. His memory is never clouded. His memory is never destroyed. So Krishna's memory is crystal clear. Because time is not an impediment for him. For us in the material world, space is an impediment, time is an impediment. If I want to go somewhere, I have to sit in a car or an aeroplane, and it takes a certain amount of time. So space is very much an impediment. Time also. What has happened in the past is gone. In my childhood, even if I want to relive my childhood days, I can't. But for Krishna, time is not an impediment, space is not an impediment. Time creates forgetfulness in this world, but for Krishna there is no question of forgetfulness because time has no effect on him. Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedana kaschana. My dear Arjuna, Veda aham, I know. What do I know? Samatitani, that which has already elapsed. Bhavishyani, that which is going to happen in the future. Vartamanani, that which is happening in the present. So I know past, present, future completely. So I know everything, I know everyone, but no one knows me. So if we take shelter of Krishna, who is beyond time, who is the master of time, then we will also become freed from the clutches of this destructive time. Actually, even the soul is free from time. But somehow or the other it comes under the clutches of the three modes and starts imagining itself to be the body, and that's where the problems come. There are many, many things about time, many stories about how time acts in the world. I'll tell you one story from the Mahabharata, perhaps some of you have heard it. It's an allegorical story. It is about this one man who loses his way in the forest. And it's a very dense forest, very dangerous looking forest. All very dense and big, big trees. It's very dark and this man gets frightened because he has lost his way. And then he sees all these dangerous animals coming from different directions and all sorts of hideous creatures. And there's one very old lady who is very, very ugly. She's big and she's coming to catch him. And she wants to marry him. And he runs away. He sees other beasts to come. So he runs for his life. He's utterly fearful. And as he's running and running, he doesn't notice that there is an open well which has been covered over by grass. Because the grass has grown and grown, it has covered the mouth of the well. He doesn't see that. As he's running, he goes and falls straight into that well. But at the edge of the well, he trips because there is a vine there is some creeper. So his foot gets entangled in the creeper. So as he falls into the well, he hangs headlong down, head downwards, hanging because of that creeper. Now just imagine the condition of this person. Okay? He is fallen into the well, he is hanging upside down, and the creeper is tied around his feet, and he's hanging there upside down. That is the condition. And then when he comes to his senses, he looks down, and right below at the bottom of the well, he sees this big python with a mouth like this open, waiting. Come, come, I'm waiting for you. And he gets very scared. And he looks up. And then he sees another elephant, a strange kind of elephant, with 6 heads, 12 feet. And so he's wondering, my God, what is that? And then he sees these mice or rats. There are 2 types of them, white rats and black rats. And they're nibbling at that creeper from which he's hanging. Yes? So gnats, they nibble, nibble, nibble. What's going to happen eventually? It will be cut. So these rats are nibbling there. And then the well happens to be under a tree branch which has grown over the well. And from the well, from the branch is a beehive. And from the beehive, a drop of honey falls down. And as he's lying hanging upside down, somehow that drop of honey comes and falls on his cheek and then goes into his mouth area. And he licks his tongue on his cheek and lips, and he's able to taste the honey. And he says, ah, so delicious. Oh, wonderful, very nice. Ah. And then this is so nice. So now his energy, his mind is set on the next drop. When will it come? When will it come? So then, yes, that suspense happens. So he's waiting. When will that next drop come? And again it comes after some time. Ah, ecstasy, ecstasy. And then again he licks that. And then he's waiting. Again there's another drop after some time. And sometimes the drop doesn't come and he's in total anxiety. He's not in anxiety about that serpent there that's waiting for him. He's not in anxiety about the rats that are nibbling the creeper. He's in anxiety that when is the next drop of honey going to fall? And when will I be able to taste it? And this is a story told by Vidura, actually. And he explains the perilous condition of the living entity in the material world. This is precisely an allegorical story. Allegory means it's an analogy. Yes? So the forest represents the material world. Because once you come inside this material world, you get lost. You wander around in so many different species of life. You forget your identity. It's a dense, dark place where there's so much ignorance. And then you go and see all these different beasts. And I forgot to tell you, as he's lying down, there are so many mosquitoes and insects that are biting him. That's also I forgot to mention that. Because in Australia, you don't find so many mosquitoes. So, but even in the midst of that, he's looking at the honey. So anyway, the different animals, etc., they represent the different types of miseries that come, different ailments. And who is that large, hideous-looking old lady who's coming after him to marry him? That is old age. Nobody wants old age. But Madam Old Age is waiting with a garland, waiting. I will marry you, I will marry you. He said, no, I don't want to marry you, I don't want to marry you. But eventually he'll come and put the garland. We will all have to become old one day. We try to run away, but eventually we will not be successful. And the well represents materialistic life. You fall into that well which has no water, empty, dry, dark well. And we're hanging there. What is that rope? The creeper.
Attachments.
The creeper represents our hopes for survival in this world and hopes for happiness. The rats, they represent, the white rats represent the daytime, night, the black rats represent the night time. So they are nibbling away with every passing day and night. They're nibbling at our hopes. Our hopes are getting destroyed. And then the elephant, with the 6 heads and 12 feet, represents the 6 seasons and the 12 months of the year. And in this way, the time factor is there looming large upon everybody. And the insects, etc., the bite and the mosquitoes and the bugs and so on, they represent all our friends and relatives who constantly give us pain. The most pain is caused by those who are close to us. Sorry. So in the midst of this is the situation of the material world. This is what Vidura says. And even as all this, and who is that serpent that is below? Death. Kala Sarpa. So time is also compared to a serpent that's slowly swallowing. You know what is that condition? Like a man who's being swallowed by a python. Slowly, inside. That's how a python swallows somebody. This python is waiting there patiently, open mouth. And once the rats bite off that creeper, is going to fall straight into the python's mouth. So we are also headed for death. Every passing day we are getting one day closer to death. It is such a perilous, difficult situation, full of suffering. So many people are hurting us, causing us pain, causing us anxiety. There are troubles from nature, from other living entities. And the time factor, old age comes up, our body and mind give us misery. But even in the midst of that, there's a little drop of honey. So nice. So that little drop comes. So that one drop of honey, what happens? Our whole consciousness becomes completely absorbed in that one drop. One drop after the other. And the anxiety is pertaining to that drop or those series of drops. We forget that the rats are nibbling away at the creeper from which we are hanging. We forget that the python is waiting with open mouth below. We forget all the bugs and all the other anxieties and pains that are afflicting us. We are concerned about that honey. What is that honey?
Money.
Huh?
Money.
Oh, money. Honey represents sense gratification, the sense enjoyment of this world. Just for one little drop, so much we have to work, so much struggle, so much pain. Yehi samsparshada bhoga dukkhayonaya evate adyantavanta kaunteya na deshu ranate buddhaha. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that what we consider pleasure is not really pleasure. It is bhoga, enjoyment. It is merely samsparsha. Ja means that which is born of. The word janma comes from ja also. So samsparsha ja, that sensation, bhoga means a sensation or an experience that comes out of contact of the senses with the sense objects. That is called bhoga. Sometimes it is pleasing, sometimes it is displeasing. For example, our ears want to hear some pleasant sounds. So when we hear melodious sounds, it is pleasing to the ear, to the mind. When we hear displeasing sounds or harsh sounds, it is not pleasing. So the senses will contact the sense objects, and depending on the interaction, it will give rise to either pleasing or displeasing sensations in the mind. This is what the happiness of this world is about. So Krishna says, dukkha yonaya. And this so-called bhoga, the so-called pleasure of this world, is actually the mother or the womb of dukkha, of suffering. Adi Antavantaha. And this so-called pleasure, the enjoyment, has a beginning, Adi, and Antavantaha. It is also destined to end very shortly. Therefore, na teshu ramate buddha. Therefore, an intelligent person does not delight in such so-called pleasures of the world. So this is the condition of the living entity who is struggling against the laws of nature, completely unaware, oblivious of his own very dangerous situation, and simply worried about his few drops of honey. The time factor is eating him up, Kala Sarpa. But he is not worried about it. He doesn't see that I'm getting one day closer to death. In the Bhagavatam it is said, Ayur harati vaipumsam udyan astam jayan aso tasyakti yat kshano neta uttam shloka vartaya. With every rising and setting of the sun, udyan and astam. Udyan means rising, astam means setting. So with every rising and setting of the sun, a person becomes one day closer to death. Ayur harati. Ayu means lifespan. Harati means to take away. So every rising and setting of the sun steals away the lifespan of an individual, of an entity, except those who are engaged in Uttama Shloka Varta, who are engaged in serving Krishna, chanting Krishna's names, hearing about Krishna, discussing Krishna Katha. So it's called Uttama Shloka Varta. Varta means discussions. Uttama Shloka is another name for Krishna, who is described in the choicest poetry. So therefore our time, if you want to conquer the time factor, this is the solution. We have to keep ourselves engaged in Krishna conscious activity. And even though this material body eventually will be destroyed, undoubtedly, but we will go one step closer to immortality. Whereas for those who are not devotees of Krishna, with every rising and setting of the sun, they are simply going one step closer to death. Whereas the devotees will transcend death, even though this body will die, but they will transcend death and go to the spiritual world and attain the stage of immortality, attain association of Krishna and his devotees in the spiritual world. So Srila Rupa Goswami has also said, Tannama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtananu Smritya Kramena Rasana Manasi Niyojya Tishtan Vrajeta Dhanuragi Jananugami Kalam Akhilam Nayed Upadeshasaram Ityupadeshasaram. This is from the Nectar of Instruction. He says the Upadesha Saram, Upadesh means an instruction, Sar means the essence. The essence of all good instruction, Rupa Goswami says in the Nectar of Instruction, is that we should constantly be engaged in hearing and chanting about the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna and rendering other forms of service. Tan Nama Rupa, Tan means referring to him, Krishna, about Nama Rupa Charita Adi. Sukirtananu. Kirtana means glorification. Sukirtana means wonderful glorification, etc. So we chant, we hear about, we remember, etc. What do we remember? The names, forms, pastimes, activities, messages, etc. of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. The Nam Rupa Charitadi Sukirtananu Smrityahu Kramena Rasana Manasi Niyojya. So in Krishna we engage our tongue, we engage our mind and start experiencing pleasure, divine pleasure, transcendental happiness at every step. Tishtan Braja, and we should live in Braja, in Vrindavan. Physically it's not possible, so we should live in our mind, in our consciousness, in Braja. Tad Anuragi Jananugami. We should follow in the footsteps of the great devotees of Krishna in Braj, the Brajavasis. Yesterday in the temple we were speaking about the Gopashtami festival, and we heard about how the Brajabasis loved Krishna so much. Whether they were the elder Gopas and Gopis, whether they were the cowherd boys, whether they were the young Gopis, whether it was the cows and calves, or the peacock and the deer, they all loved Krishna exclusively. So we should follow in the footsteps of such great devotees. Kalam nayed akhilam ityupadeshasaram. So our entire time should be spent like this. Kalam akhilam. So the best use of time is to serve Krishna, chant, hear, etc. Everything is the energy of Krishna. Therefore, the energy should be used in service of the energetic. Time is also the energy of Krishna, so we must use time in the service of Krishna. We should not waste our time, especially in the human form of life. Srila Prabhupada mentioned again and again, the human form of life is so valuable. It is the only life form in which we can attain self-realization. So we should not waste our time doing so many other things. We should be focusing on our Krishna conscious life, and around that we should try to organize our material life, not the other way around. As far as the divisions of time in the material world, now for those of you, how many of you have liked arithmetic or mathematics in your school days? Okay. Shall we have a little mathematics session now? You ready? Those of you who want to take out your sheet of paper or your notes, you can take it out. And we're going to have some questions based on Bhagavad Gita. We don't have time to discuss in detail, but what we're going to do is we are going to compute the age of the universe. Okay? Ready? The scientists are struggling with this, but they have not understood. They are still speculating. So the formula is given in the Bhagavad Gita. We don't have so much time to discuss every verse in chapter 8 as well as in chapter 9. We have indications. So first of all, what is the age in which we are staying? Kali Yuga. What is the time span of Kali Yuga?
432,000.
432,000 years. What was the age before this?
860.
Dwapar Yuga. What was the time span of that? Twice Kali Yuga. What was the age, or what was the age before Dwapar Yuga? Treta Yuga. What is the time span of that? 3 times Kali Yuga. What was the age before that? Satya Yuga. What is the time span? 4 times Kali Yuga. So these 4 yugas together are called a Chatur Yuga or a Divya Yuga. So the time span of one Chatur Yuga is how many times the time span of Kali Yuga?
10.
1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. How much is that? 10 times Kali Yuga. So if Kali Yuga is 432,000 years, 10 times that is 4.32 million years. That is one Chatur Yuga. Now, 1,000 Chatur Yugas, repeating one after the other, make 12 hours of Brahma in Brahmaloka. So 1,000 times 4.32 million is 4.32 billion. So Brahma's 12 hours are 4.32 billion years, earth years. So Brahma's 24 hours are multiplied by 2. So 8.64 billion years. So that is one 24-hour period of Brahma. 8.64 billion years. And how many days in 1 year of Brahma? 360. So 8.64 billion multiplied by 360. That is 1 year of Brahma. And Brahma lives for how many years? 100 years. So multiply by 100. That is Brahma's lifespan. Anyone has done the calculation?
311 trillion. 311 trillion, 40 billion.
311 trillion years and a little more than that. Just 40 million more than that. 311 trillion years is the lifetime of Brahma. For him, it's only 100 years. For us, it's 311 trillion years. But for him, he doesn't think I'm living for 311 trillion years. He thinks I'm living for 100 years. He's living for 100 years of his time. We are living 100 years of our time, or 80, 90, whatever. And even on earth, there are so many moths and creatures who live just for 1 hour or 2 hours at night. They don't think I'm living only for 1 hour. They are living their full span of life. They think I'm living for 100 years. Their 100 years. So this is the relativity of time. So Brahma's lifetime, 311 trillion years, is the lifetime of the universe. So when the time comes for Brahma to die, then the whole universe is destroyed. And then again, at a certain point, Krishna recreates the universes. The new Brahma comes up in every universe. In this way, there's creation, maintenance, destruction. Creation, maintenance, destruction. And it goes on and on and on. But beyond all this, Avyaktokshara Chittastamahu Paramam Gatim Yadgatvana Nivartante Tadhava Paramam Mama. Beyond this manifest and unmanifest material world is my abode, going where one never comes back, Krishna says in the Gita. So we may think that Brahma's 100 years are 311 trillion years for us. Just wait till you go to Mahavishnu. This 311 trillion years, this 100 life years of Brahma are one breath of Mahavishnu. Yes? How long do we take to breathe? But in our breath, there are many germs who are born, who die. So even in our breath, only a few seconds, there are so many germs that are born and die. They live there 100 years. Right? So just see the mind-boggling complexity of this world. Better we go to the spiritual world. So now, this is a calculation of the entire lifetime of the universe. Modern science speaks about relativity. Einstein speaks about relativity theory, how time is relative. Of course, in a different way. But this is known in our Shastras. On different planets, time has a different calculation. Time slows down in different planets. What is one unit of time here is not the same in other planets. So these things are known in our Shastras, in our scriptures. So you have to try to study them and understand these things. So time acts in all these wonderful ways. And the Bhagavatam gives us descriptions of time from the atomic level, from the vibration of one atom, how much time is. There is the Truti and so many other categories of time I have to mention, all the way up to the day, the fortnight, the month, the year, the century, going up to the Yuga and then Chatur Yuga and Manvantara and day of Brahma, lifetime of Brahma. The time scales given in the Bhagavatam are just mind-boggling. So what need is there for any other knowledge? At the same time, as I mentioned, it is not possible for us to completely understand this. So we just accepted whatever knowledge we are able to understand from Bhagavad Gita, from Srimad Bhagavatam, etc. And we engage ourselves, as Rupa Goswami said, in hearing and chanting about Krishna. And when the time comes, by Krishna's mercy, we will be transferred to the spiritual world. And there we will be engaged in Krishna's kingdom with him and his dear devotees. Nimeshardhakyo vavrajati nahi yatrapi samayaha. Then the time factor will not act on us like it's acting here. then we can enjoy eternal blissful life with Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any questions? Yes.
Maharaj, you said that in material world, time causes destruction of relationship, and it's the other way around in the spiritual world. Then how do we understand that being in the spiritual world, envy was developed between the soul and Krishna, and then they came down to this material world?
The question is that in the spiritual world, if we are beyond the time as we understand it in the material world, beyond the destructive effects of time, how is it that there can be envy in the spiritual world against Krishna? There cannot be. There cannot be envy in the spiritual world. Otherwise it would not be the spiritual world. Envy is possible only in the material world. And at the borderline between the material and spiritual, and which is why we come here in the material world in the first place. But in the spiritual world, there cannot be any envy. Only those who are pure lovers of Krishna can reside in that abode. Okay? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. You said we should not desire anything material with Krishna, right?
We should not ask.
Yeah, we should
anything
not ask
material
anything
to Krishna.
materialistic. So sometimes we get confused. I mean, while we are learning bhakti still. So if we don't ask Krishna, we can never succeed in that. We get confused what to ask, what not to ask. Can some
Ask for
clarity?
pure devotion to Krishna.
Okay.
We needn't ask for anything else, because your material happiness and distress is destined for you according to your past karma. So it will come of its own accord.
So whatever is the situation, we should not ask. We need not ask. Is it?
It's a life-threatening situation. But not that for every little thing we should ask. Yes? Really big things in life, okay, and ultimately, okay, what shelter do we have except Krishna? So it's natural a devotee may ask. But we should not give him trouble for every small thing. Please give me money, please give me this, please give me that.
Any challenges? It may not be devotional, any challenges even though which are independent of life threatening. So we need not ask that. Because why I'm asking is if we don't depend on Krishna, we can never do that.
So depend on Krishna. Depending on Krishna doesn't mean harassing him for asking him. Solve my problem, solve my problem. Isn't it? That is why Krishna becomes a child in Vrindavan. He's so tired of everybody asking him. He said, I'll become a child and I'll ask him again. Yes. We should go and ask Krishna, how can I serve you and how can I please you? That is the standard of devotion. Yes.
Maharaj, we may not ask anything for ourselves, but if other devotees would ask us to pray for, Krishna to solve their problems, how do we understand it?
So pray for the real welfare. That Krishna understands what is the real welfare. He will do whatever is best. You can pray to Krishna that he does whatever is best for that devotee. In Krishna's estimation, what we think may not be the best. We think it is the best, but it may not be. Yes.
Maharaj, I have a two-part question. You mentioned that the time is present, continuous in the spiritual world. But I've heard that in Vrindavan, and yesterday you mentioned that there's no demons or anything that Krishna kills. So the devotees there think about the time that Krishna has done this pastime. So I understand that there is a concept of past. How do I understand present, continuous, and the concept of past?
That is why it is inconceivable. Because it's there, but you're not disconnected from the past as you are in the material world. In the material world, you're disconnected from the past. The past is inaccessible to you. except in forms of vague memories which also fade with time. But in the material world, you're not disconnected from it. And at the same time, you're in the present, so it's present, continuous, you're relishing all aspects. Space and time are no constraint in the spiritual world. Yes.
My second one is, if these moods of Krishna or these pastimes of Krishna are not accessible in Golok Vrindavan, but accessible in the material world when he does come, it appears that it's more pleasurable to be with Krishna in the material world when he performs his pastimes than in the spiritual world. How do I understand that?
Very interesting question. Did you hear the question? If there are certain pastimes that happen in the material world when Krishna descends, like killing of asuras, which don't happen in the spiritual world, then there is something, maybe it's better we join Krishna in the material world in Vrindavan than in the spiritual world. You see, that is what exactly will happen. In the beginning, once we have become pure devotees and we have to leave this material body, we will not go back directly to the spiritual world. We will go back, we will get birth in Vrindavan, which is manifested in the material universe somewhere, in one of the universes. We will get a chance to be born as a Gopal or Gopi or a cow or whatever it may be. Then we will get a chance to remove whatever traces of minute atomic traces of contamination there may be in our hearts. And we will also get a chance to be trained by the eternal associates of Krishna, who have descended with him from the spiritual world. They will train us in the subtleties of how to serve Krishna. Then we will be with him when he is killing demons and all that. We will have that. Then we will have to go there. So, the material world also plays an important role because it makes Krishna's pastimes complete. That doesn't mean that the spiritual world is incomplete, because the material world is also in a sense a part of the spiritual world. In the sense that the jail is also a part of the kingdom. The material world is compared to a jail. But the jail is also a part of the kingdom, but a different set of laws are there, but still it's under the king. So the jail is not outside the kingdom. So like that, the material world is not outside the spiritual world. But the pastimes in the material world enhance the beauty and experience of Krishna's pastimes. Yes.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. I was once asked a question that if everyone has free will and God is beyond time so he knows what's going to happen, then did we really have free will? What's an easy way to counter that argument?
Yeah, this is also a common question. That if God is beyond time, that means he knows everything. And we have free will. But if God knows about what we're going to do in the future, does it not mean that we have actually no free will? Yes, that's the question. The easy way to understand this is to know that yes, we still have free will. We'll probably talk about this tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay? We do have free will. It is only that Krishna knows how we are going to use it. That's all. He doesn't interfere with it. He doesn't force you to act in one way or the other way. We can act in whichever way we like, but Krishna knows that. That's all. If he doesn't know it, then he can't be God. God has to be all-knowing. If there's one thing he doesn't know, then he can't be God. Right?
That's good.
Yes.
I got one small question. Actually, it is said that the age in the Satyug was a lack of years, which came down to 10,000 years in Treta, and further down to 1,000 years in Dwapar, and now it is 100 years. Ultimate aim of the life is the realization of Krishna. So whatever people in the earliest yoga had time to to realize the same authority, the people in the present yuga have got lesser time. Why has been Krishna so unkind to us that we put people in this age in an uncomfortable position?
Okay, so the question is, why has Krishna been so unkind to us that in this age he has given us a very short lifespan?
For the ultimate aim of the God, our life is realization of Krishna. So we have got less time for the same objective, strong objective. The people in the set yuga has far longer time.
Actually, he has not been unkind. He has been very kind. So you can do in 100 years what they could not do in 100,000 years.
But I would say that the people in this yuga are better realized.
No, not that they are necessarily better realized, but they have opportunity. And this is especially due to the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That by following his Harinam Sankirtan movement, we can make our life perfect in this life, whether we live for 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years. But in this one life, in Kali Yuga, we can achieve the love of Vrindavan, which was not even possible for those living in Satyuga who performed austerities for 60,000, 70,000 years. We could attain Vaikuntha. They did not have access to Vrindavan. But thanks to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we, living here in Kali Yuga, have the option or the facility to go to Vrindavan in this short lifespan.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
I have a question that I've heard in lectures that when we become a devotee, Krishna is very kind and our karma register actually gets snatched from the hands of Yamadutas and then that's in the hand of Krishna and Krishna actually just takes over and our karmas are actually zero and then Krishna just gives us what's beneficial for our bhakti. So even if distress is coming, that's coming so that we can become a better devotee. And if goodness is coming, that's also coming so that we become. How do we understand? Is that real or is that is like what I'm saying is real? It's a fact. It's
Yes, once we surrender to Krishna, then Krishna takes charge of us. The question is, are we surrendered? That is the question. Once we surrender, then Krishna takes charge and he will deal with our karma in the way that he sees fit. He may magnify, he may condense it and give us in one strong concentrated dose, or he may spread it out, or he may dilute it, he may do as he pleases, that whichever he thinks is best for us. Yes.
Shrimati, as we do devotional service, we often see relationships between Vaishnavas get tense due to differences in creativity or differences in opinion. With time, do those relationships get repaired, or what strategies we might need to utilize to repair those relationships?
Okay, so the question is that we see that even after taking the devotional service, sometimes in the course of doing devotional service, because of differences of opinion, there may be some strains in relationship between devotees. So will time heal that? It depends on how we utilize that time and what we do. If we utilize the time as per Rupa Goswami's instructions and as per the other instructions of Srila Prabhupada, and if we really act as devotees, then yes, it will get healed. Why do relationships get spoiled? Because somehow or the other we are not strictly following everything that Krishna is saying or that the acharyas are teaching us. That is when something happens. But if we stay rooted and fixed in the proper attitudes and practices of Krishna consciousness, then even if there are such differences, which inevitably there will be, someone says red, someone says green, that's going to happen. So it will not become an issue. So the main thing is to be Krishna conscious.
Maharaj, you mentioned about So Brahmaji and Mahavishnu, do you know which cycle we are in at this moment? Like when you
The
talk
question is, which cycle are we in? Yes. We are, our Brahma has completed 50 years. This is the first day of his 51st year. Okay? And this is every day of Brahma has 1000 Chaturyugas. Right? And each Chaturyuga is divided actually into a period of 14 Manus. So we are in the 7th Manu. So roughly halfway through his day. So my speculation is perhaps somewhere near Brahma's lunchtime. So in the 7th Manvantara, so 12 hours of Brahma is divided into 14 parts. We are in the 7th. And that 7th, each Manvantara, each part has 71 Chaturyugas. So in the 7th part, we are in the 28th Chaturyuga. And Krishna always comes in the 28th Chaturyuga of the 7th Manvantara in every day of Brahma, in Dwapar Yuga, in the end of Dwapar. And in the Kali Yuga that immediately follows that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes. So Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu come once in a day of Brahma. And they have come so recently in the past, so how fortunate we are. Yes. Yes.
Ji, you explained the concept of present as being continuous present, but it is so short-lived that it's unimaginable to actually live in the present. So what is the concept of living in the present from the spiritual dimension? If we have to understand that as devotees living in the material world, how do we live in the present when it's so short-lived?
Do what we are supposed to do. If let's say we are hearing a lecture, we should hear at that moment, because the present is all we have actually. The past goes away, the future is unknown, but the present is what we have. So we should do what we are supposed to do at any given moment. If I'm chanting my rounds at a given moment, I should do that with attention. If I'm hearing a lecture, to hear with attention. If I'm eating, eat with attention. Fighting, fight now. And resolve it with attention. So basically do it with attention. Yes.
Thanks, Maharaj. You can go to Balgo.
Okay, yes, you can ask them.
Maharaj, I have a question regarding the free will that we were discussing till now. In 18th chapter, Krishna says there are 5 factors that influence an outcome. So, and the last factor is Krishna's will. So if he doesn't will, then how, that means that his will is overwriting my free will. Is that how it works, or?
Okay, so the question is that in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says there are 5 factors that are necessary for the successful accomplishment of any action. And the 5th factor is the will of Krishna. So which means if the will of Krishna is not there, then we cannot complete an action. So does it mean that Krishna's will overrides our free will? Certainly it does. We have the capacity to desire anything. No limit to how much you can desire. I want to be a multi-billionaire, no problem. Who can stop me from desiring that? We can think anything we want in this world, isn't it? I want to be the king of the world. No, we can decide. We can desire that, no problem. But can we fulfill it? For the fulfillment of that desire, we are dependent on Krishna. So Krishna will fulfill our desires or align his will with our will, provided we deserve it. So Krishna will fulfill our desires to the extent we deserve it by our karma. So if by somebody's karma someone is destined to be a king, then Krishna will fulfill that and make it happen. But we are not destined to be king. No matter how hard we try, Krishna's will not align with our will. And this is in the ordinary affairs of material world. But when we come to spiritual consciousness, then we try to align our will with Krishna's will. Not that we expect Krishna's will to align with our will. That is the difference between a devotional mentality and a non-devotional mentality. Materialistic mentality is Krishna's will should be, Krishna is my order supplier. He should do what I want. But devotional mentality is I want to do what Krishna wants. That is the difference. Okay? Yes.
Right, this might be another inconceivable question, but you said that envy is the interface between the spiritual world and the material world.
What is the interface?
Envy?
No. Envy is not the interface. What did she say?
The directions to this place.
I thought she was giving some purport. Sometimes they can be quite dominating. They insist, stop here, turn left. After 100 yards, turn right. So, what was the question?
So my question was, you said the envy is...
Envy, yeah. No, the interface of the material world is a neutral place. It's a neutral state of consciousness where we have the choice what we want to do. We want to be with Krishna, we want to be with Maya. Envy cannot exist in the spiritual realm, for sure. That's a nirmatsara, state of existence, freedom from envy.
So, from my understanding, it's that every individual soul has his or her place in the spiritual world, and when we do descend to the material world because of envy, that position is empty, and then we just take that service back when we get
Not
there.
exactly. Again, it's one of those inconceivable things, but suffice it to say that somehow or the other, the jiva has developed some independent mindedness and has wanted to try to enjoy himself independent of Krishna, and therefore the jiva is sent here into this material world.
So it's not necessarily at that point an envy, but just a thought of enjoyment.
Fundamentally, our cause for being here is envy, undoubtedly. Why does only Krishna have to be the enjoyer? I also want to enjoy. That's envy. So the root is definitely envy. But that is not possible in the spiritual world.
So are we not originally from the spiritual world then, if that doesn't mean? Sorry, Marge, just trying to understand.
We are and we are not. We are in the sense that originally, constitutionally, we belong to the spiritual world. But exactly where we were, how we felt, these are in the realms of the inconceivable. Some other question? Yes.
Thank you so much. In today's class, you were talking about time, and we are not free. Nobody is free from the time. But you were going to say there were two things which makes a devotee free from the time. What are those two things?
No, basically, it's engaging in devotional activities like hearing and chanting about Krishna. Because of that, then we transcend time. We go beyond time. Then time cannot capture us, although it will capture the material body eventually, but we will not have to take birth again, so we will be able to go beyond time and we will return to the spiritual world.
Thank you.
And last question, anyone? Yes.
Sorry, Maharaj, can't see you. Maharaj, you know how you answered Jagannath's second question, which was that the jiva goes back to the material world, some higher planet. So is it okay to understand that every jiva undergoes this similar journey like Gopkumar?
Does every jiva undergo a similar journey like Gopkumar? Not necessarily. Maybe, maybe not. each jiva has a unique journey in the material world, but by and large the pattern is very similar. You come down, get a human form, then from that human form, some cases maybe Brahma's form, and then you go back and forth in different cycles. And that is how it happens. And you move around in the cycle of birth and death for interminable lifetimes, maybe trillions and trillions of lifetimes. And finally one day we come to Sydney and get the association of devotees. And life changes. Okay. So thank you very much. So our hosts are here. The Gokul family, we can call them Gokuls. This is like Gokul. Nanda Gokul, Mathura Gokul, very beautiful names. Nanda Gokul Das and Mathura Gokul Devidas, yes? Servants of Nanda Gokul and Mathura Gokul. So thank you for your hospitality. We are very happy we could come here today and be with all of you. And also heartfelt thanks to all of you for having come here this morning. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada ki
Jai.
So, Holiness Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj ki
Jai.
Jai.